Hey everybody.
Hi.
Very different to just think of you guys being there and us talking to you rather than us looking at ourselves in a camera. And yet here we are. We're interested in you having a great day today, and we're helping to set up the next activity.
Yeah, or the day in and of itself. So we were anyway. Good to be with you guys. Wish we could see you, but that's okay. Hope you're having a great summer challenge. And we were just asked to share some things about our experience with silence and with living a life of presence, and what we're learning about that and what some of our experience has been about that. So that's what we're going to be talking about.
So if you can just let's just try something. I was gonna start talking first, but let's see if we can get to someplace that um, you have an experience of it rather than me just speaking and trying to you figure it out mentally. So if you would just be in a relaxed position right now. You can have your eyes closed. You can have them open. It doesn't matter. And I want you to and look for your next thought. I want you to be like eager to see if you can spot the creating and then the next thought that comes through. And Eckhart does this thing of thinking of it just like a cat waiting for a mouse to show up through a mouse hole. And there's this idea is that you're trying to anticipate just to catch the next thought that comes through. So just right now, in the next couple of minutes, just look and see if you can see the next thought arise. Well, take a partner right now and just discuss, see what happened. I just want to see if you can just talk about it and see what happened by watching for your next thought. What was your experience? Go ahead and share that for at least 30 seconds with grab somebody and just say what happened or what didn't happen or what did you notice. Okay. If you could come back.
So we don't know if you're coming back or listening or still talking right now. So
See if you can all come back.
whoever's in the room, and we also aren't. We don't know what your experience was. So
Yeah,
we can't get the
so we
feedback.
can't get the feedback
But
yet.
but anyway, go ahead.
So
Experience.
I'm just curious if anybody had the experience of like nothing, and it's like and for even for a brief 10 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever, there was no thought. And if you did, great. If you didn't, it's fine. It's just what you notice now. What I've noticed is in that in between thought. Some call it a gap. Some call it in some way a space, an openness. Some call it nothing. And whatever our descriptors are for, whatever, it, it, it doesn't matter much. But the pointing to it is that there is some aspect of it being nothing happening in my head. And that's what some we call that stillness. From the biblical point of view, even from the Old Testament, in so many of the Eastern philosophies and religion, they point to that silence as being so valuable. For many, that's the God experience, is this nothing. My experience of inside the nothing, and this is my prejudice and my way of expressing it, is there's a benevolence to that nothing. There's something that is simple and sublime and just good. Just lovely and loving. And then the noticing that more and more, in this quiet and the stillness. So one of the practices that I have is in listening. So in particular for me, it's the birds. And it's wonderful around, especially where I am with the mockingbirds and the other birds that are there. And then all of a sudden, the birds will be chirping and immediately it catches my attention. And so I'm listening intently to the birds. And then just as intently, I'm listening to the quiet when there is no bird song. And both are amazing and lovely. And so this is the practice of this silence. And I just wanted to read some words from this guy named Bob Adams. He was actually known as Sailor Bob Adams because actually I think he was in the Merchant Marine forever, and just a brilliant guy, but another person who just speaks to this aspect of silence. He says the highest teaching in the world is silence. There is nothing higher than this. A devotee who sits with a sage, somebody who's supposedly enlightened, purifies his mind just by being with the sage. The mind automatically becomes purified when you're with somebody who's still. No words exchanged, no words said. Silence is the ultimate reality. Everything exists in this world actually through silence. True silence really means going deeper than yourself to that place where nothing is happening, where you transcend time and space. You're not bound by movement of what was or what is to come. There's no thinking going on, so there is no time. So you go into a brand new dimension of nothingness. That's where all the power is. That's your real home. That's where you really belong, in the deep silence where there is no good and there's no bad and no one trying to achieve anything, just being, pure being. And this is this understanding that you can get if you can be actually highly alert with no thinking going on. A fully aware, very conscious, deeply interested. And it's like this quality of listening that can take place when you listen to other people this way. And you're just hanging on every word of somebody saying, or you're listening to the silence. And it's so alert, so aware, so very conscious. See what happens in that practice of doing that. And the quality of what occurs in your life when you touch base. Where you deeply touch base with this quiet and this stillness, and recognizing that might be more of who you are than anything. Try it out. Clet has some other thoughts on this as well.
So I picked up learned some things from she's a Buddhist nun. She's an American Buddhist nun. Her name's Pema Chodron. I've spoken about her before. But just taking this idea of silence. So Pema talks about being with the groundlessness of life. And what that looks like is allowing ourselves to be with whatever's going on without a commentary and a storyline. I'm going to also read from her book for a second. So she says, to stay with that shakiness, to stay with a broken heart, with a rumbling stomach, with the feeling of hopelessness and wanting to get revenge, that is the path of true awakening. Sticking with that uncertainty, getting the knack of relaxing in the midst of chaos, learning not to panic. This is the spiritual path. And then getting the knack of catching ourselves. This is what I like. Of gently and compassionately catching ourselves is the path of the warrior. And she talks about, we catch ourselves over and over and over again. And the path of the warrior is to catch ourselves, meaning the reacting, the whatever the commentary is that we're dealing with in real life experience. And just allowing ourselves to just be with the emotion of what's happening, whatever it is that we might be experiencing in that moment. And as we allow ourselves to be with it, that's what allows it to pass through our bodies. So maybe it whatever emotion might be there, it could be anger, it could be fear, it could be sadness. And what we typically tend to do is resist it. Like we resist that experience altogether. Whatever it is, the experience itself that's causing that emotion, the emotion itself, we tend to do whatever we can to distract ourselves, from actually experiencing what's going on. And so her teaching or practice is that if we allow ourselves just to be with it as it is, not adding anything to the story about why it's that way, about how it shouldn't be that way, but just being with it, that emotion literally passes through it. We experience it fully. And this goes with joy too, actually. Even with happiness, we tend to want to hang on to it. Like when something good is going on, we want to hang on to it, but it never lasts. It doesn't ever stay. So this practice is about allowing this experience to, experiencing it fully, being with it, and then letting it pass through you. And she calls this a place of groundlessness, where there's uncertainty, maybe, the unknowing, and all of these things. And it's really, really powerful. And so one experience that I have where this really did make a difference for me was when there were some years back when I was dealing with my daughter Yara, and she had been going through some really difficult times in her marriage and her life, a lot of trauma, a lot of things going on, and I knew about it. I think I've shared parts of this story before, but I knew about it, and so I was just worried about her all the time, and it was always this awkward feeling of wanting to take care of her and talk to her, but not knowing how. As a parent, you try to have these conversations, and it was just this always cautious, careful, mental thought about how to do this. Also my own feelings of incapable, of not knowing how or what to do. And we flew her out here once. She was here for a surprise party for Uncle Eric, and she was here for about a week. And so that entire time I had been looking forward to finally being able to spend time with her, talk to her. We went out to Starbucks one day, and she shared a little bit, but it was just this constant efforting, and with a lot of pretense around it, a lot of worry and concern, and me wanting to really understand her and not knowing how, and her resisting talking to me. And this all was going on for it felt like a whole week of dancing around this. And then I remember literally driving her to the airport. It's just her and I in the car, and dropping her off, this, you know, hugging her, wanting so much to be with her and to connect with her. I hug her, I get back in the car, and as I'm driving home and not feeling great at all, this practice came to me that I had just been reading with Pema about allowing myself just to be with the emotion and what was going on. And in that moment, I just allowed myself to be with the feeling of what was going on in my body, and just kind of relaxed into it. And all of a sudden, just this eruption of emotion just came out of me. I was just sobbing, like uncontrollable sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. But there was no commentary going on, really, nothing. It was just being with this whole emotion and the feeling of it. And it was painful. It was painful, and yet I just allowed it to be there, just experiencing it, no trying to understand why, nothing, just being with it. And then it passed through, and then there was just this sense of complete relief. And then I think that was just the start of the next thing that happened for us in moving that conversation and that relationship forward, which happened later after that. But the first process was just allowing myself to be with that and not resist it. And so that's just what I'm inviting you to allow, or to take on as to try it on in the midst of whatever you might be experiencing. Just allow yourself to be with those feelings fully. And then, because the thing is the more we add commentary and storyline and all the things in our mind, the more thought we bring to it, that's what keeps those things in place longer. Whether it's upset or the feeling of loneliness or depression or whatever might be there, that's what keeps it in place. And then one last thing I just wanted to share as well, that she takes it to another level that's really powerful, which she talks about when those emotion or whatever whatever thing that you're experiencing is, she has this practice of getting present. So for instance, maybe in a time you're just feeling incredibly lonely, perhaps, or in this example, I remember too, of this feeling of a parent of not being able to really care for my daughter the way that I would have hoped. And so that brings up a lot of emotion and a lot of pain. And so the practice is breathing that in fully, like breathing in all this pain, and along with it, all the pain of the people in the world that have experienced that, like bringing in all of it for the entire world, not just my own, but all the people in the world who have experienced the same very thing that I'm experiencing, whether it be, sadness or pain or anger, and just breathing it in fully rather than resisting it all, breathing it in fully, my own and everyone else's, and feel what that feels like literally let yourself be with that. And it can be scary, but just being with that. And then on the in-breath, so you're breathing it in and you're just like being with that fully, that experiencing, and then breathing out this sense of what we would hope for others, the sense of relief that we would hope for others, the sense of love and joy that we would hope for ourselves, the compassion, that we would hope that we could bring to ourselves. So on the out breath, you're bringing that out to yourself and towards the world. So that's another way of dealing with emotions and things that we tend to not want to be with. So I hope that was useful. That was a lot of information.
I love it. That was great. Yeah. So someone taught me a long time ago is I prefer to feel profoundly So whatever that occurs as, if in your listening, I prefer to feel profoundly, which means not only in the profundity of a good thought, but profoundly connected to all feeling. And I prefer to be in full awareness of what's going on both through my body and all the other sensations that come in, that I might be more present, both for myself and for that compassion that she talked about, that self-compassion, as well as that interest in all other people being well. And that is the path of the warrior, is to take whatever is occurring here, and especially all of my challenges and difficulties, and meeting those challenges and difficulties profoundly, and having the experience of success and sharing that success with other people. I prefer to do that than anything else. So in that inner silence, I say, you get to really get an understanding of yourself in a compassionate and powerful way. You get to become friends with that energy and that thing that is me, most me. And as you do so, that is the background of everything. That's the how. That's your internal purpose, is to connect to that silent, that benevolence, that love that is always accessible, always there. And then we get to do exciting and dynamic things in the world. That's the outer purpose. But the inner purpose is to really touch base with who I truly am. And I say that that silence gives us a better indicator of that, who I truly am, than anything else we can do.
Yes.
So have a great finish.
There you have it. That is our little mini offering to you guys. Looking forward to seeing you very soon.
Yep.
And I just hope that you're having a great experience.
All right. See you guys.
Love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.